Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Coffee and Conversation right here on Yachting International Radio. My name is Ria. I am your host, and today I'm really pleased to welcome Erika Bergman from, where are you right now?
Victoria, British Columbia.
You
In
are
Canada.
Victoria, another Canadian, and you have quite a story to tell. You are, I mean, you've accomplished so many amazing things at the moment. Just to give the audience out there a little idea of who you are, you run something called Girls Underwater Robot Camps, and we're going to go to that in a little bit. But starting at 15, you managed to get yourself on a tall ship as a diesel engineer at 15 years old, and that tall ship was heading from California to Canada. You studied oceanography while you were working as a mechanic on a steamship. And in 2013, you won the National Geographic Young Explorers Grant. So you do have quite a resume at this stage so far. Let's start at the beginning. How did you manage to get yourself on a tall ship as a diesel engineer at 15?
Well, it's one of those learn to sail ships. I have a picture here. I'll show you a couple pictures. I'll show you the sailboat and the steamship, so you can see them side by side. And so it was a learn to sail program. There she is. That's the Lady Washington. And inside of that boat, there's a Detroit diesel 8V71. And I started as a engineer's mate, basically working in the belly of the boat, and also learning how to sail and kind of old-timey sailing. And then, yeah, in college, I worked on a steamship. There's the Virginia 5. It's a 1912 original ferry boat from Seattle, Washington. And here's a little peek inside the engine room there. So yeah, that was just a fun thing that I did to make a little bit of cash. And I was really small, and so it was a really convenient person to have in the engine room because I could crawl into the boiler and into the bilge. And the old guys that ran these ships thought that was really funny.
I can imagine. I mean, what actually got you in? What did you have a love of the sea always, or what got you into sort of that
Oh
direction to
yeah.
begin with?
No, the ocean was always like, if you cut me, I bleed cold, salty water. That was always 100% where I belonged. I
Yeah.
feel more comfortable underwater, definitely, than I do on land. I love traveling. I love seeing the world, but I will always go back to the ocean. And yeah, as a kid, I grew up in Hawaii and Florida and Washington, always coastal towns and a lot of islands. And the ocean was always just like, it was right there. It was your weather forecast. It was your after school activity. It was where the food came from. It was everything.
Well, so then you became a submarine pilot as well.
Yeah, that's my full-time job. So I have 10 years as a full-time submarine pilot. I'm a contract pilot, so if you've got a submarine, call me up. Uh, I can pilot several different vehicles, and I go on contract all over the world. I leave on Monday for the Bahamas, and we go explore the deep unknown. It's either filmmaking or it's tourism, like kind of ecotourism. It's a lot of public outreach. I should show you a couple pictures. You want to see some submarine pictures?
I would love to see some submarine pictures.
Okay. So this vehicle that I'm going to show you is called Stingray 500. So that's what
Nice.
we're talking about, the bubble kind of submarine, not the military, like pew, 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 missiles and torpedoes kind of submarine. No, this is a research and exploration vehicle.
Yeah.
So a lot of the submarines these days are acrylic spheres. So yeah, there's three of us inside that goofy looking bubble. And if you look in my hands, you can see I'm holding the joystick controller that we use to pilot around. I'm hyper focused out the window right now because I'm actually landing the submarine on the helicopter deck of a ship that was sunk. So I'm
Wow.
hyper focused landing my little underwater helicopter on the helipad, which was really fun. This is kind of what it looks like at the surface. We hang out in there, and it's pretty comfy. Yeah, there's a bunch of different vehicles that all drive little 5-person submarine called Antipodes, and that's kind of what it looks like on the inside of that one. Just exploring and finding really, really neat stuff underwater, like airplanes. That's the sonar scan of the airplane, and there's the actual airplane that we found. So it's pretty wild down there. And then I also pilot deep submergence vehicles. In November and December of this year, I'm finally going to cross a major continent off my checklist. We're going to go dive in Antarctica.
Nice.
7,000 feet, 2,500 meters.
That's
So.
an, and you've done, I mean, submarines aren't the same as they used to be. Submarines are coming a long way. I mean, Triton, for example, is starting to build some submarines that are actually very luxurious. They're not just explorer vehicles anymore. They're more, you've got a pilot that takes you down and you've got your wine fridge and a really comfy chair. Do you know what I mean?
Super comfy chairs, and
Yeah.
they have cup holders, and there's like built-in surround sound speakers, and I call it the subwoofer.
Oh, too funny.
That's me written all
Good
over
one.
it.
Good one. A little bit cheesy, but good.
So yeah, the new subs coming out of Triton are really cool. Actually, on Monday I'm flying down to pilot a couple of Triton vehicles. They're very first ones, so they're not the new luxury vehicles. They're the real functional workhorse Tritons, but they look a lot like that first picture I showed you. They're cute. They're called Nemo and Nomad.
Nice. So
Yeah,
you've been involved in filming as well.
yeah, a bunch.
Which was the most notable for you?
Well, for several years, during the like 360 video craze, which is kind of over now, I filmed a bunch of stuff for National Geographic. We had a lot of award winners in our 360 filming, and they weren't all underwater actually. One of them was at Buck Island Reef National Monument, which is in the Virgin Islands. That one was beautiful because it's 360 video. You can look around, you can see coral and sharks and gorgeous stuff. But I think the most notable was a terrestrial one we did. We filmed with baby orangutans in Indonesia. So not all the work I do is underwater. I also love just any kind of engineering, especially camera engineering. And so I kind of developed a bunch of 360 housings for these things. And one of the most engaging characters I've ever gotten to work with was baby orangutans. And I'm gonna click through. I'm gonna keep talking to you as I click through to this video. But these guys are so absolutely adorable and charismatic, and they're really curious. They're like little tiny human babies, and so if you
Yeah.
put something in front of them, they want to look at it and they want to play with it. So I'll show you a couple pictures here. These, oh my gosh, you're gonna pee your pants. These are the baby orangutans. So this was filmed at a school. It's a baby orangutan school, an orphanage, and the school bus, they move the orangutans around every day in a wheelbarrow.
Oh my
They
goodness.
love touching and they love holding each other because they don't have their mothers anymore, and so they just love being packed into this wheelbarrow. So anytime we're around the baby orangutans, we have to protect the babies from our
Yeah.
diseases. So we're covered in, quarantine. We were quarantined and checked for everything before we got to play with the orangutans. As you can see by his little foot through my carabiner there, they're really, really curious about everything. And so one of the things I wanted to do was build a camera rig that could record the school bus. So the silver thing in front of my hands is 4 GoPros in a little special housing. And then I've put it onto the wheelbarrow so that we can film the little babies in their school bus. And of
Oh.
course, here's what happened.
Oh, they're so cute.
Thanks.
Oh my goodness. They're trying
Yeah.
to taste it.
Yeah. they're just toddlers. They want to just explore everything. So I think that's probably the most notable was the baby orangutans, because that one blew up. The internet loved that.
Are you going to go back and check them out now that they're getting older?
I would love to. Yeah. No plans right now, but eventually I would love to.
So, as far as being a sub pilot for tourism, where is the craziest and sort of most out of the way place that you've ever been that
Hmm.
strikes a chord?
Everyone asks that. I love this question. I really like this question, but everyone asks that and expects me to give a geographic answer, like, oh, Papua New Guinea is really cool, which it is. This
Yeah.
is from Papua New Guinea. I get upset.
Ah, okay.
Sorry, if you're wondering why I have legs sticking out of my head, that's the chief. Yeah, he's from Papua. But no, the coolest place on planet Earth is everywhere. It's at a certain depth. It's called the well, not everywhere. It's everywhere in the ocean. It's called the mesopelagic, and it is just at the very, 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 very bottom of where the tiniest trickle of light in the ocean reaches globally, everywhere. And every single day, the biggest migration on planet Earth happens in this mesopelagic zone. Everything coming up from the deep sea up to the surface to feed in the moonlight. Every day, huge migration of everything comes up. And so being in that zone at sunset is just the most exciting place because everything's coming past you. All of those like whirly ctenophores with the rainbows that you've seen. They have those like rainbow combs on them. Those are all going up above you, and all these teeny tiny little specks are going up, and everything eating the specks is going up, and then the bigger fish are going up. That's the coolest place on planet Earth, hands down, and it's everywhere.
It's interesting that you say that because I don't think that people in general are aware of really what is beneath the ocean surface. There was a video that was making the rounds not too long ago, and it was quite a long video because it went through the different layers that were in
Mm-hmm.
the ocean. And it took forever to watch. And I don't think any of us honestly really realized that there were that many layers in the ocean
Yeah,
and that it went that deep and there was that many different species that could only survive in each layer. It was
yeah,
definitely an education for me, and I was so glad. I'm not sure who put it together or where it came from, but I was really glad that I was able to see it because it really did teach me a lot. I think we all think we know everything, and really we don't even know a tiny grain of sand of the information about what's going on in the ocean on a daily basis.
yeah. Yeah, it's cool down there. Yeah, and I mean, yeah, I think most people have a sense of the ocean as like here's a GPS position that must be this hunk of water, like this little piece of water that I can see. But that GPS pinpoint of a piece of the ocean is 10,000 meters deep, and
Yeah.
every single slice of that is a different ecosystem. So it's not little GPS pinpoints of blue water that you see. It's columns of life.
Do you ever think that in your lifetime, people in general are going to be able to discover everything that there is to discover about the ocean?
Well, I think everything is a big term, but certainly a lot. There's some really exciting science in the form of mapping. I think everybody understands that mapping and understanding the ocean is really important and also really exciting right now. So there's a lot of people working on it. And there's a there's a common misconception. People say only 4% of the seafloor has ever been mapped. That's not actually true anymore. You can use LiDAR data from space satellites to map the entire seafloor. It's not in a super high resolution, so we can't see, in like meter or less than a meter resolution, but you can tell by global sea height. The ocean's not level. The ocean is different heights. And you can tell by these different heights where big land masses are and big mountains and big canyons are underwater, and you can actually see a LiDAR map of the entire ocean. And that's more exciting because then you know where to go to look for the cool stuff.
And I guess that I'm sure that there is a ton of things to really discover yet. I mean, there's shipwrecks and all sorts of things that haven't actually been uncovered at this stage.
Totally. Yeah, shipwrecks are the coolest. The seafloor is the biggest museum on planet Earth. We've been a seafaring creature for, I don't know, 10,000 years, more than 10,000 years. And there is shipwreck after shipwreck after shipwreck down there. And it's the coolest thing in the world to go see them. It's so weird. It's so eerie, but it's really cool.
Well, and I mean, through your love of the ocean and through your love of what you do, you decided to give back and to give women and girls a chance to discover something that isn't traditionally women. And now it's becoming so. And it's girls underwater robot camps.
Yeah.
Now, this is for 13 to 17 years, and it's teaching engineering and exploration. Tell me about that.
Yeah. Well, when I'm on these ships, I love my colleagues and I've had nothing but support as a woman in this industry. Seriously, like props to all of my coworkers, everybody on ships. It's been wonderful. But I'm the only chick out there, usually ever. If there's another woman out there, she's a cook or a stewardess or something, pretty typical female,
Yeah.
traditionally female. And I want to change that. Where are my ladies at? So about 5 years ago, I decided I was going to play the long game. And if I wanted female coworkers, I was going to have to hire them, which meant I was going to have to train them, meant I was going to have to get them to want to be trained. So Girls in a Water Robot Camp is partly selfish because I want more female submarine pilots out there with me at sea. Um, and I want them to go into anything they want. I think Girls in a Water Robot Camp is a chance for young women to try soldering, microelectronics, basic engineering. There's CAD modules, all kinds of really cool work that will pique their interest and get them to realize there's a whole bunch of fields they want to go into, and then they can spread out from there. And if some of them want to be submarine pilots, great, I win. If some of them want to be anything else, great, I still feel like I win. So Girls in a Water Robot Camp is, yeah, it's 3 to 5 days, and I kind of adjust it according to the place, but the campers are typically, I try and run it in countries where they wouldn't have access to something so kind of off the wall. And I try to run it for youth at risk, and the students never pay a dime. So every single camp is fully funded. Um, we have a donation link on our website. So we are a nonprofit. You can donate to the program. You can sponsor a girl. Typically, we have corporate sponsors. So we occasionally, an individual will say, I want to sponsor a girl in your Kenya program in June. And they'll fund one child. But usually we get corporations who think, I want more females in my workforce, and I'll play the long game. So I'm going to support, 10 women in your program, because in 10 years, they're going to come back with amazing job skills and come and work for me. So I think now everybody is seeing it as this really valuable, little bit selfish, a little bit self-serving opportunity to tap the world's largest resource of untapped talent, which is women.
Well, I mean, you said build, explore, and inspire.
Yeah.
Tell me what made you come up with that sort of phrases.
I think it was all of the great opportunities that came to me when I realized what it was to be a National Geographic explorer. That's something, it's sort of this lofty ideal that I think a lot of people have. Oh, I want to be a National Geographic photographer. I want to be an explorer. It's really easy. You build a tool, and then you develop an expedition, and then you go do it and you tell the story. It's literally just that easy. But somehow that's really tricky for people to get started doing. So I wanted to make sure that camp wasn't just engineering. I wanted it to have a really well-rounded kind of extension of that feeling of being a National Geographic explorer. So the girls, they build the tools, and then they plan a little micro expedition, and then we go out and do the micro expedition. I think the daunting thing for people is not knowing how to plan their expedition. It's really easy. It's like, okay, how many granola bars do we need to buy? Well, where's the local gas station? How many gallons of fuel are we going to burn? What do we hope to see? And if we see something different, how are we going to tell that story? It's really simple stuff. And so I just want to push them into it so that they're not afraid to do it by themselves once camp is over.
You make it just sound so simple, and I think that's great because I think when people take a look at things that are unknown or They feel they're unknown. They become a little bit afraid of stepping outside of their comfort zone.
Mhm.
And the way that you lay it out there, it just really is. It just sounds simple. It sounds so easy for anybody and everybody to take that step and do it. And
Mhm.
that's exciting. Where have you done this camp in the world at this stage?
So I've had over 500 girls through the program in some capacity. We've run it in Papua New Guinea. We've run it in my long-standing return program is in Tampa, Florida.
Okay.
We've run it in California. We've run it the very first one was half in Washington and half in Baffin Island and Nunavut in the Arctic part of
Yeah.
Canada and over to Greenland. And run it in some other places that I can't think of right now, but a few others. And we're gonna run a program in Qatar,
Where's
on the
that?
Arabian Peninsula. The Arabian Peninsula, Qatar.
Qatar. Okay.
Yeah, they say Qatar. So Qatar, and we're very excited to be running our very first Kenya program.
Wow. And so traditionally, are these kids somebody that would be near the ocean or be exposed to the ocean?
No,
No.
no, absolutely not. Totally unexposed. They might even most of the kids, I mean, and this is true if you go to Monterey, California, if you go 10 miles inland, 90% of the young people there haven't even been to the ocean, which is 10 miles that way. I
Yeah.
mean, it's extraordinary how close you can be to the ocean. And if you don't have, if you have really hardworking parents that are, at a financial level that they can't take time off from work, the kids never get to go to the ocean. So even students who are near coastal often never have this kind of experience of the ocean. In the Arctic, for example, the families there live on this bay. They literally live next to the water. They fish all day. They spend so much time with and through the ocean, but they never go in the water. And it's kind of a cultural thing. Usually it's iced over. And so it's this kind of very dangerous place. You can get in trouble in the water. It's super cold, super icy. And so culturally, they just don't go in the water. And so we gave them an opportunity to build and explore with this tiny shoebox size remotely operated vehicle, this underwater robot. And they looked underwater and their eyes just like bugged out. There were so many things under there that they had never seen, all these kind of whelks and snails and sea stars. They've caught all the different kinds of fish. They recognized all the fish, but everything else that supports the ecosystem of the fish, they hadn't really seen too much. And so that was really exciting. And then of course we leave the robot with them, and then they become explorers of their own community and pass it on. And I think it was one thing that they said was it was a way to get back to their roots. I think culturally in the past they had been a lot more connected to what was under there, and so it was a way to reconnect to that.
So I imagine that in every single area that you go to, it is a different experience. It's not always that they're using the underwater robot. There's a different experience in every area depending on what the climate allows.
Yeah, well, the client and the people, I mean, as soon as you give someone a real kick in the pants and tell them to think about what they want to explore, at first they'll kind of start with these, I'd call them sort of basic ideas, like I want to look for plastic, or I want to see if there's sharks. You really broad topics. You give them a kick in the pants. You tell them to think deeper, think harder, think more about um, their personal experience, and then their exploration topics get into these really weird niches. And that's exciting for me because it's stuff that I would never have considered exploring. They wanted, for example, in Papua New Guinea, there was a group of students who wanted to see if there were sharks. And I said, okay, well, are there sharks? And they said, yeah, we know there's sharks. And I was like, okay, well, I mean, that's not really that interesting then because you already know there's sharks. And think harder. And they said, well, I was like, how do sharks hunt? And they said, well, I think they have this little electrophore, I forget the word, for what sharks use to sense electricity, but that's how they hunt. And so I said, well, you have an electric ROV. How can you test that? And they, like, their eyes lit up. And then all of a sudden they're like, okay, we're going to have one ROV off the side as a control with no power going to it. And the other ROV, we're going to drive around and it's going to have all of its electronics on. And we're going to see if we can attract sharks to one versus the other. And all of a sudden, it was a way more interesting topic. And yes, we got a flyby. It's just that kind of thing gets really exciting. Gets me all amped up about the ocean.
Well, and you know what's exciting about that too is that it's not just that the kids get interested in the ocean, but they get excited and they understand that they can be original and they can come up with things that other people haven't come up with before, and they can follow through as well to completion.
Yeah, definitely. And it's adults too. I run the most the most the most popular program is Girls Underwater Robot Camp, but I also run this for adults, and adults get the same kick out of it that the young people do, because they're in this, a lot of times they're in the same boat. They want to be explorers, but they've never done it and they don't know how. And I'm just there as a mentor. I'm just there as a pants kicker and a facilitator, really, to get them, a little bit closer to what they always dreamed they would do.
Well, you know, one thing I'm noticing in the yachting industry right now is that in general, they are looking more and more, yachting owners are looking more and more towards the exploring side of things.
Yeah.
And you're seeing that with submarines popping up everywhere. The yachts are getting smaller, but they're getting more capable of carrying things like submarines because these yacht owners are a lot younger, they're more active, and they want to go where no one has gone before.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen a change in sort of people's concepts and desires in the past 10 or 15 years yourself when it comes to wanting to go underwater?
Um, I don't know if I could say that I could speak specifically to that, because I don't traditionally come from yachts. I've come from the research background,
Yeah.
and academia, and so in academia and research, it's always about exploration. So I'm really excited to hear that that's coming up, and there's a lot more philanthropy and exploration philanthropy affiliated with recreational yachting. And I'm excited about the future, and I'll definitely keep an eye on it. Yeah, I think it's a cool prospect.
Do you think, though, that with an increase in that sort of exploration, that it could lend to us humans making the same mistake that we have made above that level and on land and damaging the environment that, as to this point, has been untouched?
Yeah, certainly it's a possibility. It's a question of volume, really. The ocean is big, but it's not that big, and I think it's a question of volume. We've seen for years and years the motto was the solution to pollution is dilution. Just throw it in the ocean, it'll get diluted and it'll be fine. Now we're starting to see that there's a buildup of toxic stuff in the ocean. That's because we've overwhelmed the system. It's a scale issue. And so I think the opportunity for people to boat responsibly is really exciting, because it's very possible. The ocean is very resilient and can handle, I think, a lot. But if we're responsible with it, it's going to provide a lot to us. And if we're irresponsible with it, then we're going to overwhelm the system, and it's going to turn into toxic sludge. But I think the generation that's kind of popping up is very environmentally focused in a way that that we haven't been for a long time. And I think we got a good shot. The way I think about it, I'm a cynic. I mean, I'm a very optimistic cynic, but the ocean's going to be fine, and planet Earth is going to be totally fine. We might not be able to handle the situation. I mean, we go crazy and start buying all the toilet paper when there's one little virus, and we might die out in 10,000 years. Who knows? But the ocean's going to be fine. It's going to pop right back. So it's really about protecting ourselves. If we want to live more than 10,000 years as a species, we should probably, keep the planet at a healthy, space to support our life.
Do you know, that's funny. It's the first time anybody has ever put it that way when I've been talking to them about the environment. And you know what? You're so right.
Yeah. Yeah. Planet Earth's going to be fine. It's
Yeah.
always, yeah. Mass extinction is like no big deal. So it's us, you know. What do we want? How long do we want to stay on the planet?
Yeah. No, it is. It's
Like the
so true. It's
cold-hearted
so
scientist
true.
in me. I'm like, meh, I don't know.
Well, I mean, history has shown that, things go extinct, and it is what it is. And we are just another animal species, aren't we? We're not anything special really at the end of the day, except for we're probably a lot worse than most animal species because we've probably done way more damage to the environment than any other species before us.
Yeah, yeah, we've made ourselves pretty dependent on something that's pretty dependent on us now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if people want to help out with the Girls Underwater robot camp, how can they can go to a website and there's a donate area that they can
Yeah.
donate
Yeah,
to.
well, they can either there's three opportunities. One, if you are an adult, you can come to camp. I do run an adult, I call it like luxury tech camp. It's a very high end kind of build a robot, drink some wine in that order experience with like really great speakers, and I make it really really fun. It's a fun opportunity for grown-ups to build something with their hands. So you can email me and say, I want to come to camp. Or you can send a kid, and we do that through kind of boots on the ground. If you want to camp for your child, then find a local um, marine center who wants to host it, help us find a corporate sponsor to pay for it, and then we'll come in and run the camp. Or if you want to donate so that a young person without the right financial backing can come to the program totally for free, we have a donate link on the website. The website is thegeeks.com. It's thegeecs.com, and that's Girls in
I
Water.
was going to ask you, geeks. Where does that come? So it's basic. Where does that come from?
Well, it stands for Global Engineering and Exploration Counselors.
Okay.
Um, we're mentors, first and foremost. We do all kinds of things with girls after they're through the program, help them with their college applications, hire them to run future camps. Um, and I wanted it to be engineering, but also the piece of it that's really hard for people to grasp is not necessarily like learning how to solder, it's learning how to run an expedition. So it's also really fundamentally expedition camp, learning how to be an explorer. And we run it all over the world. So global engineering and exploration counselors.
That's right. Well, and geeks just has a great ring to it, actually. It's a nice sort of thing to put together.
Yeah, it's easy. It made sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to be airing this on all of the various platforms here. And I really do hope that people take a look and do donate, or, maybe plan on having it in their area, because I think it's such an absolutely amazing, concept that you're doing, and really pushing women, especially with the girls camp, pushing
Mhm.
girls to say, you know what? It is absolutely possible for you to do anything in life that you want to do. And what traditionally is a male role is no longer traditionally a male role. And that's exciting news.
Yeah, yeah. And if you want a little ROV on your yacht to go check out your scuba dive site before you go down, we'll we'll train your crew in a really exciting program. Yeah, this thing runs really well on boats. So
There you go. Actually, I never thought of that too.
yeah.
Yeah. So are you able to train sub drivers or sub
Well,
captains?
not like the big submarines like I
Yeah.
drive on somebody's yacht
Yeah.
specifically. That's a different topic. We could do that. That's different. But the little ROVs, yeah, the robots, yeah.
Oh, nice.
Um,
Nice.
I can just show you. Well, look it up. You'll see pictures on the website.
Yeah, well, no, definitely. We're gonna put a link to your website and the information. What's next for you? Are you have any great big plans?
Yeah, yeah. The girls from that have been through the program for the last 5 years are begging and clawing for what's next. Now we've been through the program. Now we have an idea of what's out there. What else can you give us? How can we reach more girls? And so one of my big ideas is I'm working on a book, which is kind of a generic way to reach a lot of girls. It's called Give This Book to Your Daughter.
Nice.
And it's all these like kind of the antics of exploration from myself and a lot of my fellow National Geographic explorers. You know, you can poke fun at our adventures and then also feel empowered to go do them yourself. And then I'm working on the idea for a digital series, a TV show series called Can I Drive? And I want to show women all the kinds of different vehicles, not just submarines, that you can drive. You know, it's kind of a combination of the engineering side of things, like let's look at the engine of the vehicle, and then let's also drive it, and let's see what a day in the life of that driver is. So we're going to start with 5 episodes. We're going to drive a ferry boat. We're going to drive a float plane. I'm going to drive a snowcat. And
Yay!
one of those big GPS-driven combines in a field of corn in Iowa. So, Can I Drive? It's for the girls. It's the next thing for them. Yeah.
Do me a favor, you got to get out there and drive a Zamboni.
A Zamboni, sure. Yeah, we can do that. Yeah.
I'd love to see somebody, a girl, drive a Zamboni. Those are the most ridiculous vehicles out there. But
Yeah,
and you know what? Probably hardly anybody knows what a Zamboni is. So we'll just leave it at that, and they'll have to wait and see you drive one, so they'll know what it is.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for letting me go on and on about the ocean. I love it.
No, do you know what? We're really thrilled to have you here, and we're so glad to hear about your experiences and the fact that you are doing what you're doing, and we're glad to support. And if you ever do anything more exciting, which probably isn't that possible, but if you have any more exciting things that you happen to do, we'd love to hear back from you. Any adventures that you may embark on and want to share the picture or the story, we'd love to have you back.
Sure.
Wonderful. Thank you. You've been watching another edition of Coffee and Conversation right here on Yachting International Radio. My name is Ria. I have been your host, and we'll see you right back here again another time.